G'day, and welcome back to Derriere Farms, where today we're going to be taking a look at production facilities, specifically production cycles and recipes, and how they affect your bottom line. And if you don't already know, how to calculate how much a facility will produce on a monthly basis. Now, I can already hear a couple of you saying, well, a couple of people saying, why are we covering this 6 months after the game was released? And all of the Giants partners released their videos right when the game came out because they had early access. Well, first, there have been a couple of patches since the game came out, slight changes to recipes, and a big change to the way cycles work. Cycles are now monthly, not hourly. Which leads into the fact that, and I did go searching, and I looked, specifically for how do monthly production cycles work. I could find very little information. Just curious, because, and this is the primary reason, well, part of that, nobody else has updated their videos to reflect the changes in the patches. And thirdly, there still seem to be a lot of questions floating around about not necessarily the productions themselves. Most people understand that you put X product in and you get X product out. The questions revolve around the monthly cycle and the recipes. In the last 2 weeks, have probably seen and answered at least 6 questions regarding cycles and recipes, and why one production facility differs from a different one in the way its recipe works. I'll give you a couple of examples. And now these numbers, I'm not going to go back and look at exactly what they were, but one guy, for example, got his sheep farm up and running, and he purchased a spinnery. The recipe he calculated would provide 1,700 liters per month of fabric. And when he went to pick up his fabric, he found he only had 1,000 liters of fabric. The next question, and this again is just an example, another guy had done what most people seem to want to do. He had built the first production chain that he had built up and completed was the bakery, because for some reason everybody wants to make cakes. After he made his cakes, or after his next expansion, he decided to go into oil. Well, we'll go back to the bakery for a second, and I can't remember what the exact numbers are, but loose numbers. The recipe and the seasonal cycle for cakes says it will produce roughly 2,000 liters of cake a month and 4,000 liters of bread per month. And sure enough, he said, I'm getting 6,000 liters pretty much of these products per month out of the bakery, but I have a problem with the oil factory. It's not working properly. I'm going to use sunflower and canola oil as examples here. The recipe says put in 4,000 liters of either canola or sunflower oil, or both, and you will get 2,000 liters in return. Now, I know it's not a 2-for-1, but anyway, those are just the examples. And he goes, the problem is I'm not getting 2,000 liters of each product. I'm only getting 1,000 liters of each product. So why am I getting the full amount from the bakery, but the oil mill is only working at half speed? To explain all this very quickly, I am going to use 4 greenhouses. Why? Because they're probably the best paying production facility in the game for return on investment. They're quick, they're simple to understand. They each produce 3, or they have 3 different recipes: lettuce, tomatoes, strawberries. And you can choose to produce 1, 2, or 3 in each facility, which will demonstrate the problems we were having in the factories. So I've got them all set up, and we're just going to get a little bit closer to 10 o'clock because we're going to check tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock exactly what our numbers are. 57, 58. Come on, give me 59, close enough. Just put it to half speed for a second. And for those of you that are new to productions and just wondering about this, this is your productions tab, the factory conveyor belt. So, let's go in order of difficulty. The first greenhouse, we're going to do lettuce, then we're going to do tomato, and then finally strawberries. And this greenhouse, we're going to do everything. And I'm going to do the carpentry, and I'll explain at the end of the video why I'm doing the carpentry. And I'm only going to do planks. Actually, no, I'm only going to do wood. So everything's set for storing. So before we start skipping ahead, we can speed up time a little bit. Before we start skipping ahead, for those that are new, okay, these are our production. Each one of these greenhouses represents a production facility. This is our recipe for lettuce. In 1 month, see, that's your cycle, which is a month, you should produce 1,248 liters of lettuce. Tomatoes are 2,256. Don't worry about the inputs versus the outputs, because the inputs are going to get used. What we're really concerned about is the final outcome. This is what's going to be produced per cycle. Strawberries. Now, this is where I think some people are having a little bit of confusion. Strawberries, this is how many they would produce typically in a month, is 1,776. However, if you notice, it's 1 water produces 2 strawberries. So we will actually get 3,552, or we should technically get 3,552 liters of strawberries. This is the magic number, not this one. And write down while we're waiting in the comments what you expect we will get out of the greenhouse running everything. I am not going to... the only reason I'm going to talk about the carpentry is because it's kind of a unique business. It can take either wood or planks, and you'll notice the recipe is slightly different. $6.96, $6.96, 5 and 7. So it's 4, and we'll give you 5, and this one times 7. And the reason I'm showing you this, well, we'll go into that tomorrow after we've had a look. So let's skip ahead to tomorrow, and we'll look at our final numbers, and then I'll give you some more information on why productions vary. G'day and welcome to tomorrow. Tomorrow is the day that never comes, so it's always today. Tomorrow is always tomorrow. That's my bit of sage wisdom for the day. Okay, so we have, and these are 500 liter pallets. Remember, they're not 1,000. So the poor chap that was trying to figure out why he only got 1,000 liters instead of 1,700 liters was because the spinnery outputs 1,000 liter pallets, not 500. He was comparing it to his sheep, where the pallets fill up as they go. There's 4 stages to filling a sheep pallet. Anyway. And then they hold 1,000. So you could, in theory, with sheep, you could have a total output of 1,700. Anyway, that's not the point. So we got 1,000 here for the greenhouse. And we have 253. We're supposed to have 1,248, so we're pretty close. The reason it is slightly higher is because somebody explained it to me. Basically, since it's 28-day months versus real months, it's 23 hours a day versus 24 hours a day, which is why we get slightly more production in exactly a day, or a month in this case. Somebody a lot smarter than me came up with that formula. I don't know who. So we got at 1248, let's say 1250. We have 500, 1,000, tomatoes, 1,500, 2,000, and 265 in there, and we should have 2256. So we're over by 9. Not a huge deal. Strawberries, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 3,500, and 67. 3,567. So we're over. We should have had 3,552. So we're over a little bit. Now, let's look at this production facility. It put out 1,000 liters in pallets of strawberries, and it has another 188 liters inside of it. It put 500 liters of tomatoes, and it's got another 254 liters stored in its storage. And lettuce, because lettuce has a much lower cycle per month, we only have 417 liters, so we're a little bit shy of having a pallet of lettuce spawn. Okay, so what I did next was I divided everything by 3, since this facility was producing 3 products. Lettuce divided by 3 was 416, came to 417, so we're off by 1. Tomatoes were 752. We're pretty much bang on that number. And the same with the strawberries. It was 1184 and 1188. So we're over by 4. So that is why certain facilities produce more than other ones. Shared production. Because this facility, or the I can't remember the name of it now, greenhouse, there we go. Because the greenhouse, yeah, most people would edit out that blooper, but I won't. The greenhouse is like any other production facility. It has a total capacity, and each recipe, depending on how many items get produced or how many recipes there are, get divided by that number. For example, and this is why I was going to show you the carpentry business, was the carpentry business has 2 different recipes. One is for furniture made of wood, and one is for furniture made of planks. It's a shared recipe too. So, let's go visit the carpentry and we'll do some math. Alright, so here we are at the carpentry. We have 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, and let's look at what's inside, 493. And if I did the math right on the recipe, it says we should have 3,480. Again, account for that extra time. Margin of error, yep. If we had done, 696 times 5, and then 696 times 7. So if we'd done planks, we would have got 4,872. I read my notes wrong. Versus wood, which would have produced 3,480. Now, because this is 2 different recipes, this facility is sharing, just like our greenhouse that had everything, is sharing the 2 cycles. That means that the total output of the factory is both recipes divided by 2 and then added together. So 3480 divided by 2 plus 4872 divided by 2 and then added to the other recipe will give you your total output per month. What's interesting about the carpentry is that it's producing exactly the same thing. It's producing furniture. And it can either take wood or it can take planks as an input to produce that furniture. If you own the dairy, you'll notice it's the same thing. It's a shared production facility where its total production is divided by 3 as opposed to 2 with the carpentry. But each cycle is set differently, which is why you end up with... let's go take a look at the dairy. One second. Here we go. R, yes, we want to buy it. R, let's bring it up. So, butter is 1440 cycles per month times 13 divided by 3. Cheese is 2880 times 2 divided by 3. And poor old chocolate, and that number is wrong because I've been messing with the XML files as an experiment. Anyway, poor old chocolate gives you that times that 3,360. So you're going to, with this, divide that by 2. You're going to get 1,500. Yeah, that's about right. I'm only getting, on my main farm, I'm only getting about 1 case of chocolate per month. Okay, so with that sorted out, let's touch on the ultimate question at the end of the day. Why is the bakery producing both recipes full bore? Why isn't the output divided by 2 for each recipe? Took me a while to figure that out, and actually I had some help. But if you go into the game's coding or the XML file, there is a line right somewhere in the productions area which says production shares facility or shares production facility, something like that, and it is either true or false. And in the bakery's case, I believe it is false by default. I could be wrong, but this is basically explanation of why it works that way. The bakery has this line of code in it which tells it to run both productions independently of each other. So both productions will run full bore. The only other facilities that I have found so far, and I haven't had time since finding that bit of information out to look it up, the only other production facilities so far that I have found that have that line of code in them are the grain mill, the sugar mill, the BGA, and, like I said, the bakery. So, you ever wonder why, if you have all your inputs in the flour mill, it's outputting so much flour? That's why. It's processing each recipe at the same time. Same with sugar. That's why you end up with so much more sugar and so much more flour than you could possibly use in one bakery. And unfortunately, it takes up a lot of space, so I end up turning on and off my sugar and my flour mills just till everything else gets caught up. Okay, the final question that got asked was regarding, again, going back to the oil mill and the fact that productions are divided in 2 for most facilities, or 3, was, should I, the gentleman wanted to know, should he run 2 separate oil facilities to maximize the output of each recipe, or should he keep running one? He's apparently at the point where he can afford to do that, so it's not a problem. My response was, then in that case, it's entirely up to you and how much oil you want to be shipping and selling. I said, I hate moving pallets around, so I'm happy on my actual main farm that I plague personally and privately. I'm quite happy with just the pallets that spawn it naturally from one production facility. It's taken me a while to get there, but I'm at the point too where money's not necessarily an object. I own 50% of the map, the lower half, and I've got all my productions. So I am definitely not adding any extra production facilities. Because I don't want to rush to the point where the game gets boring, where I have too much money that I don't know what to do with. To me, the game's only interesting when you've got something to aim for. When you own the entire map, which I will eventually, when you own the entire map, what else is there to do on that map? Anyway, I hope you found this video useful and gave you a better understanding of production facilities. Remember to give it a like if you found it helpful, and remember to subscribe, especially with precision farming coming out tomorrow. Stay tuned for lots of videos on that. Take care, Jay.